All right, so we got a great turnout this morning as more people are continuing to drop in. Um, there might be something that piqued your interest of what you're trying to learn more about fast attack leadership and our boot camps. Boot camps are a flagship program. If you want to type in the chat, if there's anything specific, I certainly have some prepared content for what we're going to talk about today. But if there's anything, again, I want to make sure I address any question that you have, answer any question that you have, so you leave here feeling that that you got what you needed. Yeah, fantastic. Who should come to boot camp? That's a great question, and we're going to answer that today. Good. Oh, yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know you're a big fan of using the platform and already using the platform. So we'll talk about if you already use the platform, what's the benefit that you and your team can get out of boot camp. A couple really good questions right there. All right, so it's 8 o'clock. I like 8 o'clock West Coast time. So I like to start on time. Thank you for making the time to come. We're gonna look underneath the surface and really talk about what leaders need to navigate in this disruptive world that we live in. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Marc Koehler, president, founder of Lead with Purpose. Absolutely have the most fantastic job in the world, really passionate about helping other people lead more purposeful and inspiring lives. Just to give you a little backdrop of how I got to where I am today and with the company is 1988, joined the U.S. Nuclear Submarine Force, had some fantastic experiences as a 23-year-old leading 110 men to operate a $1 billion fast attack U.S. nuclear submarine, missions critical to national security. I'm talking about life and death situations, harsh environment, 400 feet below the surface of the ocean, months on end, isolated from loved ones, no sunlight, cramped space. And when I think about that time, we had a very agile framework that allowed us to make the most smart decisions the fastest. Again, the most smart decisions the fastest. While I loved being in the Navy, after 5 missions at sea, I saw the tremendous impact that had on having a normal family life. We were out at sea over 85% of the year. Think about it, 310 days a year, underneath the surface of the ocean, isolated from loved ones. And so I got out and I went to go work for Honeywell, learned a lot of great things there. But Honeywell was a big, slow decision-making operation. And for me, frankly, that was very frustrating. So in 2005, I stepped off to do strategic management consulting, and I fell into doing turnaround work. I would be put in as the turnaround CEO of a company that had lost its way, and I was to work with the team to try to get them back to sustainable and profitable operations. And I can tell you in the first couple of ones that I went into, I went in like a bull in a china shop. I was like, hey, I'm going to show that I can lead this company back to success. And what I did is I just implemented all the things that I had learned, all the business tools that I had learned at Honeywell. And after a couple of months, I can remember I was really frustrated because what I was trying to implement wasn't working. And I wasn't getting the results that I thought we should be getting. And I started reflecting about my time in the submarine force because I was able to be very successful in a dynamically changing environment. Why wasn't what I was doing here working? And when I peeled everything back, what I can tell you is that I had the wrong framework. I had the framework from Honeywell, big structure that needed, all of this framework in place so it can have consistent operations. And what I did is when I went back to the submarine force, I just pulled all the tools and best practices forward from that. And I had immediate success and was able to take teams that were failing before with big structured tools. I was able to take the fast attack leadership tools, apply them to these business situations. And with the same exact team, that's the great part of the story. A lot of turnaround people, they go on and they change a bunch of people out. I didn't change anyone out. I was able to show them how what they did made a difference in the world and take the new framework, apply it, and I was able to tap into this tremendous human potential that sits inside every single company. So with that and the interim CEO role that I had, I cut my teeth, on leadership in the submarine force, and then as an interim turnaround CEO for about a 25-year period. And what I was able to see was these three things about human beings, and I'm going to share them with you today. Number one is I was doing a lot of turnaround work, helping 3 to 4 companies at a time to take their company from where it was and put it back to sustainable and profitable operations. I was trying to be better in the other leadership areas of my life, namely as a husband and a father. And then I learned a lot teaching 8 to 10-year-old kids how to play competitive soccer and manage their overzealous parents and grandparents. And what I can tell you is that this is what I learned about us as human beings. Number one is we crave simple, meaningful messages. That's number one. Number two is I believe attached to every single one of our souls is the wanting to belong to something bigger than themselves. And then number three is people get excited when they know they've made a tremendous difference and when they've been given the opportunity to have a big hand in making sure that the important work gets done. And so what I can share with you is that our entire fast attack framework mimics and helps to bring to light these three human needs. And when I look back in the submarine force, that's what it helped to foster in that environment too. So fast forward to where we are in 2020, had COVID hit. And what I can tell you is that I was really surprised at what happened. I was actually shocked at what happened. It turns out that the companies that were on fast attack, they were able to manage this massive change and this massive disruption and navigate to more success. Now, during that time, we were contacted by a lot of companies that weren't on a more adaptable and agile framework. And they were just trying to hunker down, get to safety. And what happened was they were found dead in the water and they got knocked around. A lot of companies we know went out of business, they sank. Wanting to reach more companies because seeing the success that we were able to teach people how to be more adaptable and agile and wanting to reach more companies, that's where the Fast Attack boot camps were launched in earlier this year. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited to share with you some things that you can implement immediately. I'm going to give you some things today, but then really talk about what happens at boot camp. Here's the biggest challenge that we're seeing with all CEOs. And what they're trying to do is stick with the older organizational framework that worked pre-COVID. Now, what you're seeing on the screen right now is a typical organizational chart. And the lines that are on the chart are connected via job descriptions, specific job descriptions of you're in sales, and this is your role, and you are in operations, and this is your role. And so this framework now is almost always used also as a decision-making framework. And I think that's where it's really failed, because people, you still need an organizational chart. You still need to understand roles and responsibilities, but you need to get to a framework that's more adaptable and agile. Probably the best way for me to explain this to you is we've all played foosball. We all understand that on the foosball table, the players can't move around. They are on certain poles, and there's 4 different poles that the leader or the person playing can use to knock the ball around and ultimately score a goal. And so a lot of leaders have this mindset that, hey, I need to be involved in every single decision. I can't push decision-making down. Or if they've done it, they've only done it down one layer. And so imagine trying to play foosball on one side of the table where your players are stuck in these roles or feel stuck in these roles, and play against someone else on the other side where the players can move around on the field. Now, if you got a chance to watch the World Cup, you probably saw a lot of these. This is a framework of how the teams start the game. And so for example, on the right-hand side is the one team of 11 players. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see the team of the other players. I want you to focus in on where this, where the arrow is. That's the number 6, because that's their role. They're supposed to be in that framework. And so they start with an organizational framework. But then let me show you the heat map of where the player actually went on the field throughout the entire game. And so the ones that you see in red are where they spend more of their time. But you can see that that person didn't stay specifically in that role, and they were given the freedom to move around the field based upon the situations that were coming up and based upon what was needed. Now, if you watch the highest levels of professional soccer, the coaches, they mostly stand on the sideline and they might give an encouraging word or two or might see something different. But for the most part, they're allowing the players on the field to adjust and shift to what is needed. And this is what we all need to get to, and leaders need to get to, is this framework. That's fine, but we also need to have a different type of mindset about how we're going to solve problems. And here's the deal. Korn Ferry came out with this, and it said that 14% of leaders, only 14% of leaders possess the new skills and new tools necessary to lead today. And you might say, hey, I'm going to fake it until I make it, or hey, we're still working on it and we're gritting it out. Well, here's the thing. The same part of that study found that 71% of employees don't believe that their leader has the skills, the tools, and their company has the capability to get their company into this post-COVID era. So that's just a little backdrop of where we are, and a lot of challenges that we're seeing organizations have. They're just stuck in that organizational chart. And what we do is we help them shift to the new matrix type of chart that's needed. Now, when we talk about what we're focused on helping companies to achieve, there's 3 big outcomes when using fast attack leadership. And these are the outcomes that attendees leave and their teams leave with when they attend the boot camp. Number 1 is we're going to give you the framework that you can establish a world-class culture. Number 2 is we're going to help you to create a team that's engaged, one that's extremely aligned, but in the same manner is extremely agile. And then with that, we're going to show you how to use decision-making and push decision-making deep into the organization so that you can execute at the highest level. Now, because of these things, you're going to have the opportunity to be a lot more productive as a company and as a team, and you're certainly going to make more money. But the reason why we do this, and the reason that Lead with Purpose exists and Fast Attack Leadership exists, is we have a deep desire to make a tremendous impact in the world. And we want to share with you the tools so that you can be a more impactful leader to the people that you lead and your customers. I mean, the Navy spent $1 million teaching me how to be a leader. And then over the next 25 years as a turnaround CEO, I was able to take and adjust the framework and the tools that were forged under the surface of the ocean by the U.S. Nuclear Submarine Force. And I was able to take those and translate them so that they work fantastic on land for companies who are operating in disruptive environments. And we love being a part of companies' success and journey, and that ripple effect that goes out from what purpose can do in your company. And that's why we named the company Lead with Purpose, how it can have an impact in everyone's lives and collectively moving the needle. So here's some statistics and put some hard numbers to that. Over 400 companies, 46,000 fast attack leaders have been developed. We're working with companies that are on 5 continents. We've been able to have a $385 million productivity increase collectively with all of those companies. And we're impacting the companies that we're working with and are using the framework have impacted during the time that we've been working with them over the past 25 years, impacted 7.8 billion people's lives. That's a B with a billion. So, I don't put these numbers up to try to brag. What I want you to know is that these tools are being used in different industries, different size companies, different cultures, different challenges that companies are all facing. And what I want to let you know is that I continue to be a student of the game of leadership. And, to let you know that I'm still in the trenches with you. We're still doing work with companies one-on-one, so we can stay fresh, so we can make sure we keep updating the framework. And I, again, am continuing to hone my leadership craft and the framework, again, by being directly involved. So these are the stats. This is the impact that we have. What I can tell you is post-COVID, more and more companies are trying to figure out, how do I make this jump to a more agile, adaptable framework? And so we're seeing an acceleration of people adopting our framework to help them lead their company. All right, so with that done, I want to just talk about a couple of the leadership myths that we continue to see. I think it's important for people to understand this. So leadership myth number one is, when we work with companies, they believe that their team is majority aligned. And what we're finding is that teams aren't a majority aligned. Teams are typically, when we have them take a test, we have them take an alignment test up front, the team, on the most important things that are needed today to lead, the team is only typically 9% aligned. So think about that. What if you were 9% aligned on the most important thing that matters in your life? What if you were climbing Mount Everest? What if you were 9% aligned with the team that you're climbing Mount Everest? You probably wouldn't make that climb. So number one myth that leaders have and think about is that their team is aligned. Number two leadership myth that we're seeing is that only the top levels of the organization need to lead. In pre-COVID, that might have been fine. The majority of the decision-making made at the top of the company. But what I can tell you is that in this new post-COVID world, we need to make sure that everybody at every layer is looked at as a leader. So we need you to make a mindset shift that everyone in your organization, from the person who's been there for 20 years to the person who just came on 3 months ago, everyone is a leader. Number three leadership myth is that, hey, the pre-COVID framework that I had, it's going to continue to work in the post-COVID world. And what I can tell you is that you can continue trying to grit it out using these old tools and old practices. But what I can tell you is that there's a lot of stress and strain that's being caused. And this upcoming year, it's estimated, just came out, estimated that 58% of people's stress this upcoming year is due to processes and procedures that worked pre-COVID, but now have a lot of inefficiency in them. And that includes your organizational framework. So your pre-COVID framework, not going to work. Number four myth that we're seeing is, when people get into a leadership role, many of them feel that they need to have all the answers and they need to know everything. And again, pre-COVID, that was fine because we had that organizational chart. And when you rose to the top, you had to know all the answers. And that's not your job today anymore. Your job today as a leader is to facilitate an environment where you're able to create teams on the fly from different areas of the organization and bring them together to bring in expertise to solve a problem. And then they can all go back to where they need to go. So your job right now is to more be a facilitator of your entire culture and your company. And the last one that we're seeing, and this is just normal, we have a great performer who's doing great work. They're great in, they're the top salesperson. And we always think, hey, they're the top salesperson, so they're going to be the best person to lead. And oftentimes that couldn't be anything further from the truth. You need to be able to take everybody and invest in them in leader. So those are the leadership myths that we're seeing, and we want to break all those. And at Bootcamp, you're going to have the opportunity to be able to do it. All right. So what does it take today when we're talking about leadership? What does it take today? Here's what it takes. Number one, you have to have an extremely open mind. If you're the type of leader who says, hey, I've already learned everything, I know everything, that you're not going to be as successful as you can be. You have to be a student of the craft. I think about leadership as a craft, and it's something that you can continually get better at and you have to continually work at. So number one, you need to have an open mind. Number two, it's about being people focused. In the submarine force, we had the world's best technology that anyone had. And but none of that would have worked unless we really focused on the people to be able to use the technology. And Top Gun 2 just came out, and in Top Gun, Maverick says it's not about the plane, it's about the pilot. So I really want you to take a look and shift to being people focused. That should be your number one thing. If we take care of our people, give them the tools and the best practices that they need, they're going to take care of our customers, and taking care of our customers, that's going to help us to get the return that we want for our company. Number 3 is you have to be extremely steady and extremely poised. How you behave is how the rest of your team is going to behave. So if you're on this up and down tremendous roller coaster, they're going to take that ride with you. And so often it's very easy, being the leader of a team or company, to look at the challenge that just presented itself this morning and have this tremendous fear. So it's about being extremely steady. And the tools from Fast Attack Leadership and the approach from Fast Attack Leadership allows you to be able to do it. Number 4, you need to have tremendous perseverance, and you need to have grit. Can't let all the failures that you've had in the past stop you or block you. Most recently, Lionel Messi, the captain of the Argentine national team, after 20 years of trying to win a World Cup and win a Copa America, and the tremendous pressure that was put on him, and the critics and the naysayers who said, yeah, best player in the world, but can't lead his team to a championship. Every time they went into one of these major championships of the past 20 years, what he did was he accepted responsibility for not bringing home the championship, but then he just flipped it. And the next day he was off getting his team focused. And last year they won the South American Championship, and this year they won the World Cup. So perseverance and grit definitely needed. And then it's just about consistency. A lot of the tools and best practices as it relates to leadership, they're not these big home run hits. What these are the things that are day to day. And if you do these things day to day, you're going to have a great week. And if you string together a bunch of great weeks, you can have a great month and a great year. So it's really about consistency. And a lot of people, when they come to boot camp, they feel a little intimidated. Hey, nuclear submarine force. What I can tell you is that the tools and best practices that we teach are the ones that are extremely simple. And if you do them on a consistent basis, that's where you have a tremendous power. All right, so there's 3 things that we need to do and focus on as leaders, and this is part of the Fast Attack Bootcamp. There's 3 areas that you need to play in to be a great leader, and you need to anchor yourselves in these 3 things. Number 1, you need to be able to engage people. You need to be able to put out a story, an inspiring story where people feel engaged about the work that they're doing. That's number 1. Number 2 is, once you've engaged them and opened up their heart, you need to be able to push decision-making down. So you need to be able to empower them and do that responsibly. And then the 3rd thing is you need to encourage them. So you need to be able to recognize them for the work that they're doing. You need to be able to give them the resources that they need and be more of a coach, a mentor, and a teacher. What we find is that most leaders feel comfortable in maybe 1 or maybe 2 of these areas, but they don't feel comfortable in all 3. And so at boot camp, what we do is we go through each of these 3 sections, and we look at each of them and give you actionable takeaways, tools, templates, the blueprint, so that you become better in each of these areas. Because the sweet spot, if you do this on a day-to-day basis, the sweet spot is where all of these cross. And in that center, we call it an E3 culture. And having a strong culture is the number 1 competitive advantage for all companies today. All right, so that gives you a little overview of my history, where I've come from. You know, when I first started off going into strategic management consulting, I didn't have the thought that I wanted to really create a framework and then share that framework with the entire world. I just created a framework that worked for me to be more successful. And I just kept grinding away at it over 25 years. And so the framework has been battle tested, not only 400 people on the surface of the ocean, but again, above land in over 400 companies. All right, so where are we at? We have some attendees that have come from boot camp. Anya, Who do we got? Do we have Scott on the line?
We have Garrett right now, and Scott was on earlier, but we have Garrett right now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what I would like to do, I'm going to go through the first anchor, and then we're going to have one of the attendees who showed up and went to last boot camp, and we're going to have him talk about his experience. Garrett, thank you so much for showing up. That's just a sign of a great leader. If you're on the call right now, it's a sign of a great leader that, hey, I've gone to boot camp using the tools previously, but now it's going to show up this morning to, again, find out, is there anything new that's coming out that is part of this framework that I should be aware of? All right, so anchor number one that we're going to look at is engage. So let's talk about the engage. So the engage lane is the first part of the leadership. And we want to have, and we want you to have the opportunity to not only have people understand what the purpose and what the mission of your company is, but we want you to have them feel that, because it's that emotion that's going to move them to their greatest heights. And so there are many aspects of engage, but I'm going to start off by talking about the big challenge. I've already shared this, but we've done this with over, again, 400 companies. We have them take a test up front, and we ask them, how aligned do you think your team is on a scale of 1 to 10? And leaders' perception of alignment, it comes out with over 400 companies, the teams believe they're 68% aligned. And then what we do is we have them take a test, simple test. We ask them, without talking to each other, without looking at anything else, what is the mission of the, write down the mission of the company, write down the vision of the company, where the company is 5 years in the future, write down the top 5 values of the company, and then write down the top 3 goals. You would think that these are extremely important for everybody to know. And we do this just with the leadership team. Then we've, again, analyzed all of the information, culled it, and we put it back to them. And what we find is that the actual alignment of leadership teams before going through fast attack leadership, we find that it's only 9%. And this is really shocking, because what's needed today is the mission, values, and vision, and your top 3 goals. So not only you as a leadership team can make great decisions, but everyone else down below you. Just think about it. If your leadership team's only 9% aligned, how can anyone below you be more aligned? You can't be. So let me give you an example of a company that came to boot camp, and what they did, and the challenge that they were able to overcome. Now, what we're seeing is that the story, the mission, the values, and the vision is not very clear. And this is the impact that it's having on companies. This is from Bain, and it talks about engagement levels away from the CEO. At the top of a company, people are connected to the CEO, they have interaction with the CEO, and there's 85% engagement. Then one level away goes down to 62%. Just 2 levels away from the CEO, it drops to 33%, and then it drops to 16%. And so why I put this across is that what we found is that the story, the inspiring story, is being stuck at the top, and it's not getting down to the lower levels. One of the things that we have you go through in boot camp is really to get that message really clear. We have a why does it matter exercise that we have you go through, and it gets you started on making sure that message is extremely clear. The point here is that the biggest gains can be made in the lower levels, because those people down below, there's more people down below in your organization, and they're not engaged. And so this is why a lot of CEOs come with their entire team, but also they're sending their secondary and 3rd level managers to make sure that they understand exactly the training that they went through previously, the fast attack leadership that they went through. And so there's an opportunity to tap into this tremendous potential. And it's really by putting your mission, your values, and your vision in a fast attack format. So let me just give you an example and talk about what brand purpose is, sometimes referred to as the mission statement. And this might be some great homework for you to be able to do. But Guitar Hero is a company that has a brand purpose. And if you think about looking at your brand purpose. It's why do you exist? What's the difference your company's making in the world? And it has to be from the customer and employee perspective. It's a really succinct phrase, and it turns out to be your rally cry. And Guitar Hero is certainly a game that's a video game that's fun to play, but Guitar Hero's purpose is to help everyone feel like a rock star. And that's the type of thought and message that I would like you to do for your own company. Is you have these products and services that you're providing. What is it that gets to a much higher level, more of an emotional level that people experience? And that's how you connect people. Now, our purpose, our brand purpose, is lead a more purposeful life. And how we use that is we work with companies to help them lead a more purposeful life. And then we also, the employees that work at Lead with Purpose, we provide them tools, best practices, and we want them to feel when they're at work at Lead with Purpose that we're helping them to lead a more purposeful life. So let me just share with you, okay, good. Well, let's do that right now, Anya. Thanks for the heads up. Garrett, let's bring Garrett on. Garrett from Proline Horizon Hobby, absolute fantastic leader. So let's get him up on the screen. All right, Garrett, are you there?
I'm here, Mark. Good morning.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. I can hear you. Are we going to see your video?
I think the video has been disabled. I think you have to give access. Yeah.
Go ahead now and try it, Garrett.
Great.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome.
Good morning.
Garrett, thank you so much. I know you have, a Christmas party that's coming up. So I appreciate you jumping on the call.
Of course.
I would just love to have a quick conversation with you and have people hear firsthand. Tell me about what you experienced at Bootcamp, and anything that you want to share.
Yeah, I think, Mark, for us, what I saw really, I mean, we had a diverse group coming from our company. We had the C-suite team members, we had the director level, which is where I'm at in the company. Yeah. And we had 4 participants. And what we really saw, day one was huge, because day one really was, again, just reviewing the importance of getting the one-page plan clearly defined in terms of being able to get everything consolidated into this area for brand purpose, mission, blue sky vision, values, SWOT analysis. So for us as a company, one of the things that we've been doing is we've been working with Mark, for Proline for over 12 years. And so what the company saw when we were merged into the mothership Horizon, they saw the value that this plan provided, because it allowed us to become aligned. One of the things that we saw, which was challenging, especially during COVID as leaders, is how do we continue to connect people to the brand purpose? How do we do it? People are discouraged. It's a new day. We feel like, again, do these core values really, are these things that are really being lived out when their lives are literally turned upside down? So one of the things that I feel like now getting kind of into this engaged portion that really impacted us as a team is we really did some stock. We really did some deep diving within our own practices in the company and said, are our core values clearly being communicated throughout every layer of the organization? Because it's those core values that drive towards that brand purpose. And again, it gives us a better understanding of the brand purpose. One of the things that we have implemented since is getting the team to understand why we do what we do. And the brand purpose is huge with this. So we connect, for instance, what we do is we manufacture off-road performance parts for RC cars. There was a video on Nat Geo of a famous veterinarian who actually created a chassis for an animal that didn't have back legs. And he used Proline tires to actually use on the chassis of this animal, of this device, so the animal could walk through the house. And the kids are crying, the parents are, we showed the entire team at Proline this video.
Yeah.
We saw tears, and these are people that are producing those tires that went onto that device, that contraption. And so there's really power when we are able to connect our teams to the brand purpose through living out our values and then moving towards that blue sky vision. So that's one of the biggest takeaways for me. Just the second takeaway, Mark, for us,
Okay.
really one of the most convicting takeaways for me as a leader was, how do we better develop decision makers? We live in a different day now, and one of the things that Mark reminded me of was that the rate of play on the field continues to get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker, especially within the market that we're in. We're in the hobby industry. And so we have to be able to trust our team members, but we also have to make sure that we're leading through asking questions. And when we do that, we continue to develop decision makers. Yeah. And so the proof's in the pudding. And I just want to throw this out, maybe just as a footnote or in closing. We do this quarterly employee satisfaction or engagement survey. Asks questions about how aligned are you in your purpose? What value do you feel? Do you feel like you're valued in terms of what you contribute to the company with your position? Yeah. And what we've been seeing time and time and time again is growth in these survey results from our team. Keep in mind, this has happened after Emerge. This has happened since COVID, that we've seen the engagement survey results of this team moving up, because what's happening is people feel more connected. Yeah. And now we've developed decision makers, so people feel empowered and they feel like they can do what they take ownership of their work. And so it's been huge. And the fast attack bootcamp, really day 2 was one of the days where I was really, really immersed in, man, there's things that I, as a leader, that I need to improve on. I mean, we all can improve as leaders, and it was very eye-opening. But we take those things back. You put together the plan. I talk to my team, and then what we do is we put a plan in place to be able to push the decision making down. And what you do is you empower your team in the process, and the engagement grows, the buy-in grows, the investment grows. And so it's been transformative for us as a company. And not only has it just impacted our division, now it's bleeding into a company of over 700 employees in China, in Germany, in UK, in the US. And you see this thing really, really connecting people, because we're aligned also through the one-page plan. So I just want to share that with you, Mark.
Wow. Yeah, fantastic. One thing that's great too about all that, I know the workforce, and a lot of them, English is the second language. And sometimes it's the communication piece, and you guys be able to break through that, just fantastic. So Garrett, thank you so much for coming on. Want to wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas, Mark. Thank you.
All right, that was great. And again, they had been using the platform for 12 years. They got to such a point that they were very attractive, and then they got gobbled up by this big 700-person company. And then that 700-person company brought us on, and they're using the entire framework to keep everyone connected. Just a fantastic story. And Garrett's a great leader, but a great example of someone who just keeps working at their craft. And that's what we can tell you is, a lot of people say, hey, I've gotten it to a certain level. You got to keep working at it. All right. So let's talk about an example for mission statement. We had another company that was at the boot camp, and their multifamily housing architect firm. This is their mission statement on the left. I'm not even going to try to read it, but it was much too long. We had them take a test with the leadership team, and we just had them write down how they were expressing their mission statement. And what I can tell you is that there were 7 different versions that were being expressed to the different parts of their company. So there was no common mission statement that was being rippled out throughout the entire company. And so what we did is we just had them go through an exercise at the boot camp, and then they continued to work at it when they got back, but they had the tools from the boot camp to be able to do this. And they came up with impacting lives together. And this was very simple, it was very understandable, and their mindset shift was not about creating great architect design for multifamily housing. They kept asking the question of, hey, what we do and how does it impact someone's lives? And the people who live in the multifamily housing units that they create, they were impacting those people's lives in their daily lives and supporting them where they sleep and work and are at home, and where they love each other and where their families together. And then they also took it and applied it to employees about, hey, when you come to work at Charlton Brock, impacting lives, we want to impact your life, and we want to pour into you personally, professionally. And so it was this great statement that was being able to be used really as a marketing piece in their rally cry. They retook the test, and everyone in the test was able to get impacting lives together because it was very succinct, very simple. And additionally, they were involved. And that's really a pro tip here. If you go through this and do it on your own, that's one thing, but where there's participation, there's buy-in. And then what you can see is they've put it into every single aspect of their company. They've actually put impacting lives together in their logo. You can see this is on the front page of their website, impacting lives together since 1981. So that's just one example of a company that was at the boot camp. Got to hear from Garrett also. And I'm just scratching the surface here of the things that we're going to talk about and the tools and the best practices that you're going to get at the boot camp. This is just one of them. So we have the Why Matter blueprint that we're going to go through at the boot camp. We're going to give you strategies to connect people to the mission. We have 3 different strategies that are going to make sure that people understand how what they do connects to making a difference. We're going to have you go through and analyze through a return on engagement calculator, the impact that not having engaged employees is having in your company. I think it's going to blow your mind about how big it really is. We have an employee alignment framework that we're going to go through, and you're going to be able to bring back so you can apply this as a leader to your employees. There's a human impact model that we have as a calculation where you can figure out what's the impact that your company's had in the past and 5 years in the future. We have a leadership readiness evaluation. How ready is not only your leadership team, but how ready is every single person in your company? You're going to be able to take that back and have them go through that also. We have our one-page alignment tool, which you can start for free. And then we have a vision clarity template. This is a template that's going to help you to really think through what does 5 years in the future look like. And from that, be able to create an engaged team that's empowered to make decisions. So again, full-blown frameworks, blueprints, strategies that you're going to get. And this is going to help you to fulfill that first role of engage. All right, so any questions on that? I'm going to open up for any questions. Anya, if you see Scott come back, he's on for convo. Awesome. So any questions on this, just any questions that we have, just type it in the chat. All right, so let's do this. We're going to talk to Scott Sage from Sage Financial, and Scott brought his team. So let's bring him on the call, Anya. All right, Scott.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Are we going to see video? Are you?
How's that looking?
I was going to say, are you in hybrid mode? So
I think I'm. It's crazy. You're in stuff, but I'm good to go.
yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
So Scott, thanks so much for coming on. I just want to share with participants who might be watching this. What was the experience that you had, at boot camp? You brought your whole team. I know you were sitting there going, hey, it's large time investment and everything, but why don't you share your experience with boot camp?
Sure. Well, I've been with Mark's group for, a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And when he mentioned that, I think you guys should come down for a couple of days and spend some time at boot camp, I was a little reluctant to do that because we don't have a large organization. And taking a couple of days off with all the staff means a lot of things might be missing at work. And so, but I can assure you that the time we spent there was absolutely Fantastic, unbelievable, recharged the batteries. It was something that we really needed. And sometimes you don't realize you need a little extra boost. And Mark and his team was able to provide that for us at the meeting. And in particularly, it really helped some of the staff members and the management team to feel that cohesiveness with our team, that we're all working together on the same goals. And it also created a new kind of culture in the organization where it was just stronger. Everybody's really doing things together and seeing why this works and that it had worked. And even on the Monday meetings that we have now, they've just gotten so much stronger. And also I learned a couple things new about how to hold the meeting and what to do in the meeting. And then also the staff felt that way too. Lastly, it was just so incredible to see other individuals there with other organizations and the growth that they've had through the Lead with the Purpose program. So just fantastic. It was wonderful. Thanks for inviting us to it.
Yeah, that was great. Scott, I appreciate you trusting in my recommendation to come.
Yeah.
I think I remember it was funny. We were out in the lobby and after the first break and you put your arm around me, you go, I'm so glad we're here.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a big investment and all that stuff. So I appreciate it. One of the things that, can you share a little bit about how we actually did a daily meeting with your team at the event? How has that helped to change your meetings?
Well, the daily meeting, one of the things that we're doing now is, and I guess I didn't catch this when we were doing it earlier, is we're rotating the people that manage the meeting.
Yes.
And that just makes everybody get prepared much more. And each individual leads that Monday meeting. And that was very inspirational. And it allows them to think that they're leaders also. And that really has been a good feeling for the team to be able to lead those meetings on Monday and to be prepared for it and take a little bit more ownership in what's going on with the Lead with Purpose program.
That's awesome. All right, Scott, hey, I know you're busy. You got to wrap up everyone's year, make sure they're all financially set.
Yeah.
And thank you for helping us, and with what we're doing at Lead with Purpose. So I appreciate you, your time here. I want to wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Mark.
All right. So just, again, just another example of what leadership is about. It's not, hey, I've reached this summit and I'm done. It's about continuing to work at it, continue investment in time and money and resources. And so that's just a great story. So if we don't have any questions, let me get to anchor number 2 that we want you to look at. This is the Empower anchor. Now, once you've opened up people's hearts, it's then that you have the opportunity to invite discipline, and you're going to be able to take all the decision-making that happened at the top of the organization and push it down. Let me just share with you some simple math. Typical organization, company A, has most of the decisions being made at the top of the organization. Maybe there's some decisions that are being made further below. And in a typical day where there's a directive company, where the organizational chart represents the way decisions are made, that company can make 31 decisions. Think about a different company where they've pushed decision-making down. And more of the decisions are being made at the lower parts of the company because they've been able to empower people with a framework and a set of tools that they know how to play the game just as well as others do. That company is going to be able to make 58 decisions and in a day, and there's less burden at the top of the organization. Now you might say, hey, well, there's not that many, that's no big deal. But if we look at company A over a day, 31 versus 58, 155 versus 290, 650 versus 1200, and then in a year, almost 8,000 versus almost 15,000. So this is something that compounds over time. And we want to talk to you about leadership readiness. So I'm going to touch upon that today, and then we cover this very deeply in the boot camp. But on the left-hand side is a traditional organization. And what you can see is that there are 11, if you were to count the arrows, there are 11 connections that are being made on the left-hand side of that. And that's how decisions are made. And there's a, if one of the orange balls that's in there gets removed, what happens? What happens to that part of the company? Companies need to continue to have an organizational framework and have that still on the left-hand side, but companies need to shift to an additional framework and mindset, and that's what's on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see that every circle there is connected to every single other circle. Where we're seeing CEOs and leaders get stuck is on the left-hand side of the screen. The arrows are represented by specific job descriptions and what people do. And on the right-hand side, you can't have a different job description between that act as the lines. On the right-hand side, each of those lines that's connected to every single other circle, that's based upon your culture. And your culture is based upon your mission statement, your brand purpose, and your values. So those are the things that have to be in place so you can get the strength of what's on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, 11 different connections. On the right-hand side, 36 different connections. And so I talked about this up front. Your role as a leader today is not to sit at the top of an organization on the left-hand side of the screen. Your role is to create a framework of what you see on the right-hand side of the screen, and then allow different expertise to come to the forefront and to be able to create teams very quickly. And you take a step back and have that expertise come to the forefront. And then once a team has solved that problem, then it comes back and gets in this type of framework. So that's your role today as a leader, as a facilitator of a strong culture that's agile and adaptable. And so companies are really, and CEOs are really trying to make this shift. They understand, hey, I need to be like the thing on the right-hand side of the screen. They're just struggling to make that shift. Let me give you one thing that you can start doing immediately to make that shift. And the number one empowering tool that you can use is just ask a question. It's that simple. So when someone asks you a question, what should we do with the percentage off of that product? Don't answer with what you think it should be, even though it's the right answer. What I want you to do is every question you get asked, it should be the same answer to every question. And that is, what do you think? So just ask a question back. When you do this, you're going to see if that person has the tools, the capability to be able to make that decision in the future. And you can have this entire framework that you can go through. And when you do that, it's a learning experience between yourself and the other person. And you're able to push a framework of decision-making down to others. Now, this doesn't happen overnight, where you ask one question and everyone should understand exactly what the decision should be made. But this is just a tool that you can start using today with people. Ask them a question back. It tells you what they know about that specific situation. And you can keep going with it. Now, in the boot camp, we go deep into this, into a framework of you ask a question back. What do you think should happen? If they don't know the answer, you have another question. Well, what are the factors that you should take into account if you were to make that decision? And they might come up with 2 of the 3 factors, and then you have to guide them to the third factor. So it's called guided decision-making. And we have an entire guided decision-making framework that we go over in the boot camp. So, Garrett talked a lot about being able to push decision-making down within Proline and Horizon Hobby. And this is just another company that was able to go from 80% working in the business and 20% on the business just by using this question making. This entire company, and this is the CFO of Dick's Height, able to flip it from 20/80 to 80/20. And she was able to do that, and the rest of the leadership team was able to do that. They did that in a 6-month period after starting to work with Fast Attack Leadership and Lead with Purpose. They were ultimately able to transition to an employee stock-owned company, and they were able to successfully make a transition from one leadership team to the next. And so really proud of this company for what they're doing. Now, you might be stuck in this position too. 80% in the business, 20% on the business. I give a keynote about achieving harmony, have more balance in your personal, family, and your business life. And the number one question I get asked is, how do I free up time in my business so that I can allot it to my personal and my family time? And the number one thing to do is to be able to empower people and push decision-making down. And it's by asking a question. Now we have 4 other tools that you can use to make sure that this happens responsibly. So at Bootcamp, I talked a little bit about the delegation system blueprint. We're going to go spend time on that. We have an entire weekly accountability system that you're going to learn about, and you can take back and incorporate at your company. Very simple system. We have a decision-making criteria model that came out of the U.S. nuclear submarine force. When we're in disruptive environments, how do we take that make that first decision, but then course correct to success? We're going to go over that. We have the 40-70 ambiguity mindset strategies. We have the 5-3-1-90 cascading goal framework to make sure that your 90-day goals link up to your blue sky vision. We're going to share with you the scorecard dashboard toolkit that we recommend you use. And then we have a leadership readiness formula for not only you and the leadership team, but everybody in your company. Again, boot camp's in Oceanside. It's going to be March 5th, 6th, 7th. If you're in a part of the country right now that's socked in with snow, I hope you're staying safe and being really warm, but could be great respite because we have fantastic weather here in California. All right, so I'm going to open it up to any questions that people have before I get to the final one. Any questions on the empower phase? All right, so let's keep moving forward. I want to try to be on time. So let's go to the encourage phase. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but there's been studies done on companies that are world-class organizations, everything from basketball teams that win NBA championships to, again, nonprofits, for-profits, all types of world-class teams. And what they found is there's a 6-to-1 ratio of positive to negative. And this has to do with how you're encouraging people. And today it's about being more of a coach, mentor, teacher to the people that you lead. Now, 82% of employees say that they're not being recognized enough at work. This is from the Workforce Institute. And 87% of recognition systems that are put in place are really based upon tenure. That's when they're being recognized. Hey, thank you for being here for 6 months. Hey, thank you for being here for a year, 5 years. So those are the typical recognition systems. What's the power of having a strong recognition system? Because the one that we did is we took it from the nuclear submarine force, but this is from global force. If an employee is never recognized, or this was done, recognition impact on engagement. So how does recognizing someone impact how engaged they feel? If an employee is never recognized, only 30% of the employees are engaged. If there's a culture where people are being recognized every 6 to 12 months, that goes up to 43%. 3 to 5 months, 51%. Recognized within the last 1 to 2 months, 57%. And recognized within the last month, 66%. Just by a simple verbal recognition. Think about that. So how many recognitions are you giving? We have an entire framework that teaches you how to give recognitions and how to make sure you get to that 6-to-1 ratio. Recognitions are really important because they strengthen belonging behavior. And here's a pro tip: always, always, always recognize your employees in front of other employees. We're going to teach you at the boot camp to think about storytelling. And because when the brain hears data, only 2 parts of the brain fire. But when a brain hears a story, 8 parts of the brain fire. And a lot of times when I ask CEOs and leaders, hey, you need to become a better storyteller, this is the look I get. There's tremendous fear. Now, we have an entire system and a framework that teaches you how to give recognitions that have an impact. So that's the third piece. Here's 6 fast attack pro tips of just some of the things that we've talked about today. Number one is everyone is a leader mindset. I want you to view everyone in your company as a leader. Number two is you need to involve your team when you're doing this. You know, where there's participation, there's buy-in. Number three is make sure that you're leveraging technology today to keep your employees connected, engaged, and aligned, no matter where they're working in the world. Garrett brought up that they have offices all over the world, and the platform that we have is helping them to stay connected. It's about consistent simplicity. It's about doing things day in and day out, leadership-wise. And then ask this great question. Anyone ask you a question? Ask the question back. What do you think? And then finally, this is something that maybe you can put at the top of your sheet every single day, whatever you use to track what you're doing that day. At the end of the day, just ask yourself a simple question. Did I engage someone? Did I connect them and show them how their work connects to making a difference in the world? Did I empower someone? Did I ask them a question? Did I push decision-making down? Did I believe in them that they could be the leader that reached their full potential? And then did I encourage anyone? Am I recognizing someone for the great work that they're doing? And am I giving them the resources that they need to be successful? So that's a big thing that I do every day, and we teach leaders to do. At the end of the day, just check. Did I engage? Ask yourself the question. Did I engage? Did I empower? Did I encourage? And if you do that every single day, it'll get you on that path to being consistent simplicity and get you the success. All right, so recognition, the final thing, the encourage phase. Talked a little bit about the E3 culture building blueprint that we have. We're going to talk about the 4-step inspiring story framework, the value-based recognition system that we have, tool you can take and incorporate that into your company. We have the 7-step leadership model. There's the daily communication tool set. We're going to go over the one-on-one coaching templates. You're going to leave with these with your company. You can implement those immediately. We have the professional development formula that you can put in place, that professional development plans, simple ones for every single employee in your company, super important to be able to do these days. And then everything in and around hiring, onboarding, and retaining. We have an entire toolkit with templates that you can implement into your company. All right. Gosh, I could have spent 2 days, 3 days teaching you all these things that I'm very passionate about. Again, we just only scratch the surface, but these are the 3 things you need to anchor yourself in. These are part of the Fast Attack program and what we're going to cover at Bootcamp. Engage, empower, and encourage. And if you're able to do this, you're going to be 9 times more aligned. You're going to have 4 times higher goal completion. And we've had companies increase the value of their company up to 400%. So if you're interested in having the opportunity to get massively better in these areas and of your business, then you definitely want to think about Bootcamp. Our Bootcamp is March 5th through 7th, 2023. We have limited spots. We limit it so I can get around and be a part of a lot of the conversations and breaks that we have. And if you want more information, just contact Anya Koehler, Anya@leadwithpurpose.com. Maybe we can drop that in the chat. If we can drop that in the chat real quick, Anya, try to type as fast as you can. But we would love to have you. That's our next chance to get together. We would love to have you. We would love to have your team. But if you do have questions, please reach out. You might want to know what's the investment. You might want to know what's the location, what are the logistics, what do I leave with, anything. Contact Anya. You can also contact me on social media channels. I'd be happy to jump on a call with you, but we would love to have you. All right. So I'm going to open it up to any final questions right now. I see I'm 2 minutes over. I don't like being 2 minutes over. Any final questions from the group? Okay, I didn't answer that fully. So who should attend the bootcamp? It's for CEOs, but also recommend for leadership team members, and also recommend for your lower level and next secondary, third level leadership members. We've had a lot of comments from CEOs say that, hey, we are glad that we sent the people to the bootcamp because those people saw us investing in their professional development, and CEOs are using it as a retention strategy. So you can come as a CEO or leader yourself, but highly recommend you bring your team or send people who are on your team. All right, so no other questions. One more. Okay, the question is, will I benefit from the other companies that are there? Absolutely. It was something that I don't think we really fully understood until we were in the middle of our boot camps earlier this year, that the companies were able to learn from each other, companies in totally different industries, companies, different size companies, and they were able to see that other teams and companies have the same leadership challenges and how they are able to cross engage with each other and pick up tips from each other. Okay, so I have another one, Tom from Thomas, thank you. What are examples of quarterly employee survey questions like Garrett was discussing? So we have a lot of the questions that we ask as it relates to employees. You got to make them really simple because everyone's being deluged with questions about employee surveys. But you know, there's some basic questions you can ask. What do you like about working here? We like open-ended questions, Thomas. We love open-ended questions because those open-ended questions, you know, it's whatever person's top of mind and how they express it. So what do you like about working here? What don't you like about working here? And then the third thing is it's the net promoter score, but you ask it for employees. How likely are you to recommend a friend or a colleague to work at this company? So those are the three questions that we recommend you start with. We have 8 other questions that are on our survey guide. If you're interested in learning more about that, that all comes as part of the program. But does that help you? Those are some top questions. You're going to get some fantastic, good. You're going to get some fantastic results. Ask the open-ended question. It's sometimes harder to look at the data and figure out what's going on than a really quantitative question, like choose a dial, but there's tremendous gold in being able to understand how people are expressing themselves. And Thomas, you can use those same for your clients too. All right. Any other questions? Okay, fantastic. Look, I want to thank you so much for investing your time in learning more about Bootcamp, learning more about our programs and services. On our events page, we have more information about Bootcamp, and we would love to have you again. Contact us if you have any questions on it. But I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Thank you.